Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us today for the first session of our Tourism Training Live series. My name is Ayako Ezaki, and I'm a co-founder and managing partner at Training Aid. For those of you who may be new to Training Aid, a quick introduction. We are a learning and skills development company focused on providing online training opportunities for tourism professionals. This includes, of course, online courses that you can access from our platform, trainingaid.org, and free tools and resources such as this series, Tourism Training Live. We've started Tourism Training Live as a way to offer free online and short training sessions focused on practical professional insights. For today's session on destination marketing and sustainability communications, we're pleased to partner with Respond Eco, which I'm sure many of you know, is a specialist in sustainability communications for tourism, businesses, and destinations. Our presenter today is Dr. Davina Stanford, who is a senior lecturer at Leeds Beckett University's Responsible Tourism Management postgraduate program. She is an expert in responsible tourist behavior and destination management, having worked on various projects from public and private organizations both locally in the UK as well as globally in many different destinations around the world. She is the author of the Keep It Real for Destinations Toolkit, which was published this year and was developed for Visit England. We will be hearing about some of the examples and case studies from this toolkit in Davina's presentation today. A couple of reminders here before we get started with the presentation. As many of you will probably be interested, the presentation slides as well as the video recording of today's session will be made available online after the session. If you sign up for Tourism Training Live's email updates, you will receive the link in an email in the next few days. Or you can follow us on social media such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, where we will also be posting updates on this session as well. And speaking of social media, we would like to let you know that you can post your questions and comments during today's session with the hashtag TourismTL for Tourism Training Live. During the session, please feel free to share your questions. We will be monitoring the hashtag feeds, as well as if you have any comments, ideas, or if you're interested in sharing your own examples. Davina's presentation will be around 45 minutes, and afterwards we'll have some time to discuss some of the questions that we receive. So that's it for me from now. I will hand the microphone over to Davina, so to speak, for her presentation now on Keep It Real for Destinations, 7 common mistakes to avoid when telling your destination's sustainability stories. Davina, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Ayako. Thank you everybody for attending, and hello and welcome. I was looking down the list of attendees, and it was great to see some familiar faces there. So to those of you who already know me, hello and thank you for listening in. And for those who don't, again, thank you for listening in, and I hope that to meet your acquaintance at some point. As Ayako has said, I would be very much interested to hear your own stories, because this is very much the way the toolkit was developed, was to share best practice. So I'd be really interested in that, and you'll have my contact details at the end of the presentation. So as Ayako mentioned, what I'm going to talk to you today about is a toolkit I developed for Visit England, and it was about how you communicate sustainability, how you communicate what they term wise growth. So this is just gives you the outline then of what you're going to hear today. I'm going to talk about this Visit England case study and give you a little bit of background to that, about what wise growth is, and then talk a little bit about the business case, about why you would bother, why you would do some of these things for sustainability, why you would communicate them. And then we move on to the main part of the presentation, 7 common mistakes, how to tackle them, and then we'll have the Q&A sessions. So this is the background then. This started with a series of action plans that were developed in consultation with the tourism industry in Britain to develop a strategic framework. There were a number of different action plans covering the period 2010 to 2020, and in particular there was an action plan for wise growth, which is the term which has been used by Visit England in this, which has been used in this strategic framework to link and balance the growth aspirations of the strategic framework with the principles of sustainable tourism. So why wise growth and not sustainable tourism? Well, let me just explain what wise growth is, but with the use of this this graphic. So you've got four main stakeholders here: the visitors, the environment, residents, and businesses. And wise growth occurs where these overlap. Though the important thing to note that it's not just about growing tourism in economic terms. Growth and wise growth can also be measured in social capital or environmental benefits. And wise growth, in order to achieve that, destination managers need to work in partnership to welcome and involve and satisfy visitors, protect and enhance the local environment and culture, engage and benefit local residents, and help to achieve a profitable and prosperous business. And if you wanted to do a sort of brief check of whether a specific action is a wise growth action or not, you can just look at each of these four stakeholders and just ask the question: does it welcome, involve and satisfy visitors? Does it protect and enhance environment and culture? Does it engage and benefit residents? And does it help achieve a profitable and prosperous business? And if the answer to that is no, then the chances are the balance isn't correct. Now, the wise growth principles, just at a glance, there are 8 of them, and I'm just going to run through them briefly so as you know what they are. So wise growth is sort of is enacted through these 8 principles. So first off, that visitor experiences should be inclusive, fun, inspirational, safe and accessible to all. Local residents should be engaged. That community well-being is ensured, that cultural heritage is protected or enhanced, that the environment is maintained and enhanced, that all of that is done in a way which is fun and appealing, and also it's done in a way that allows local businesses to operate successfully and responsibly, with economic benefits for local residents maximised. And underpinning that, all of that, is that these experiences should be offered in a way that reduces waste, minimises pollution and uses resources wisely. Well, that seems like a lot of work, but so why would you do that? Well, many travellers are seeking unique experiences that align with their values, and I'm going to come back to that point about values later. And doing that right can ensure that you get happy visitors. So happy visitors means lots of short and long-term benefits for the destination, including free marketing through word of mouth. So satisfied visitors are more likely to connect with your destination, and they're more likely to support your sustainability initiatives, more likely to recommend and more likely to return. And there's a business case as well. So the next few slides that I'm going to show you actually talk about some of the research which backs up the importance of undertaking some of these wise growth measures. So in the next few slides I'm going to talk about green demand, about local produce, about disability and diversity. And though this is primarily UK research, it will be relevant to destinations outside of the UK. So first off is some research from DEFRA, which is a government department, Department for Rural Affairs, Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. And they've documented a growing demand for local regional food and drink that The people that buy it think that regional has quality and premium associations, and that there are actually lots of benefits to visitors, because visitors, the people who buy the local produce, believe it is fresher, it tastes better, there's better quality. And it also, of course, supports local producers and retailers, so it supports the economic community. And there are sustainability benefits as well, because if you source locally, you'll have fewer food miles. The example here on the right hand side that you're seeing is from Derby, which is a small city in the north of England, who are actually maximising on the wealth of local breweries that they've got in the town, and they're promoting this as an experience. So you can find out about a real ale trail, or you can go along to a beer festival, or you can go on a brewery tour and be a brewer for the day. Okay, so the next piece of research I want to talk about is green demand. And this is according to 2010 Visit England consumer data, which has found that 50% of consumers are interested in environmentally friendly accommodation, 50% are interested in breaks which benefit the local community, 40% have used public transport to and around the destination, which is a figure I was quite surprised at, because it's very difficult sometimes to promote local transport, public transport. And 30% of visitors on holiday would like to include walking, cycling, or some other outdoor activity which would help you promote your sustainability initiatives. And we just got some examples here on the right hand side of Oxford, who are promoting cycle tourism, and the bottom, the New Forest National Park in the south of England, who are promoting electric car hire to visitors when they arrive at the destination. The next piece of research that I want to talk to you about is research from the Office of National Statistics, the ONS. And in the UK, we're seeing an ageing population, and this will be true for European destinations as well, or for European origin markets. So according to the Office of National Statistics in the UK, 23% of the population will be over 65 by 2035. And different research is showing that the market for accessible tourism is significant. In 2009, UK residents with a health condition or impairment and their travelling party spent almost £2 billion on overnight trips in England. And the example that I'm showing you here is from the Norfolk Broads, which is a rural area in on the east coast of England. And the Broads have a dedicated section on their website which can be searched for accessibility under a variety of headings, including boating, places to stay, eating and drinking, walking, bird watching, angling, and various other information. Oops, sorry. And the final piece of research that I want to talk about is the opportunity for the lesbian, gay, bi and transgender LGBT community, which is seen by UNWTO as an emerging market and a significant one. With a quote there telling you about the importance of being accepting to LGBT travellers. And the example here, this wonderful colourful photograph, is from the annual Pride Parade in Bristol. So this is hosted every July and is promoted via a separate web page. And the Gay Bristol web page, linked through to from Visit Bristol, offers details of gay-friendly hotels, districts, nightlives, and web stats are showing that Gay Bristol received 4,547 unique page views in 2012. So let's move on then to have a look at some of the common mistakes that are made. And we've got the first mistake here, it's marketing. We need catchy copy and cool photos. But you need to do more than that. You need to tell stories through text, photos and videos. And let's consider then the importance of YouTube if you're not already using it. According to the European Trends Watch, over 800 million unique users visit YouTube each month, 400 billion hours of video are watched each month, 72 hours of video uploaded every minute, so showing is much more powerful than telling. And if you look on the right hand side here, this is the approach that has been taken by Visit Southwest on their Spectacular Journeys page, and they tell you about these wonderful journeys, how you can get around, what you can expect to do, and general information about the Jurassic coastline, the coastline on the south there. And I've got a nice quote here from Neil Warren from the University of Exeter, who helped develop these videos. And he says, the concept is about selling the journeys as an experience in their own right, rather than trying to persuade people to switch from one mode of transport to another. The environmental goals of this initiative, though certainly they were there, are never highlighted. It just happens that all the journeys involve some form of public transport. So the messaging here is not just sort of, please leave your car behind, get out of your car because it's good for the environment. It sort of turns the message the other way around by showing the visitor what a fantastic experience they can have by taking the train or by taking the bus. The next common mistake is that destination marketing is just the job of the DMO. Well, it makes sense to work in partnership with other stakeholders for a much more effective communication, for greater amplification, in fact, of your sustainability messages. And the example we have here is from the See More, Feel More campaign from the City of Birmingham. And this is part of an ongoing strategy to build on the 10 million or so visitors that come to Birmingham for arts and culture annually. And Marketing Birmingham has mounted a new campaign designed to boost the region's cultural profile. The campaign integrated marketing campaign features with creative PR, digital and social media activity to engage with would-be visitors. And it's backed by 70 or so of the region's cultural organisations, local artists and performers, many of whom you can see in this wonderful imagery here. And the promotional activity is supported then through a look and book media briefing pack containing facts, stats, case studies and events listings. And there's a great quote here from Stephen Maddock, City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, who says that the campaign provides a stronger collective voice to shout about the exciting work that's happening here, more than it would have done if it had just been the DMO selling the message. The next example comes from the Forest of Bowland AONB. Now AONB stands for Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, which is a designation, it's a landscape designation which offers some protection to specific landscapes. The interesting thing about this area is that it is quite close to the Lake District National Park, which is one of the more popular and more famous national parks in the UK. And what they were finding was that accommodation providers would have their visitors in, and then when visitors asked what there was to do in the Forest of Bowland AONB, the suggestion would be that they go to the lakes. And they wanted to retain those visitors in the forest, and they did that by producing a sense of place toolkit to sort of add depth to the product there and to really get everybody, all the stakeholders, all the accommodation providers actually selling the same message about the wonderful things that are available in the Forest of Bowland. And they involved over 200 members of the local community through consultation to talk about their favourite places, their personal memories, history, farming, wildlife, even the best place to buy an ice cream. And then all of that consultation fed into this this toolkit to create a sense of place. Common mistake number 3, we need to communicate only to our visitors. Time and again we see lots of examples of destination websites that only speak to visitors. But remember two things: that local businesses and residents can be engaged in your stories, in telling your stories, but also that local residents can also be visitors too, and they may be very supportive and very helpful in keeping businesses viable during the off season or the shoulder season. So let's just have a look at some examples here of about how residents and businesses, local residents and local businesses, can be involved in these various different ways of communicating. And this example comes from Newcastle Gateshead, my kind of tune. In order to promote the city, Newcastle Gateshead Initiative has developed a series of testimonials from visitors and residents, which discusses what makes the destination special. The testimonials allow potential visitors to identify with the people who are featured, and it includes, as you can see, a mother, a student, people with particular interests in music, foods, arts and culture. And you can click on each of these images, and I think the photographs here rather cleverly segment the market. So if, for example, in the top set of photographs there's a woman holding a dog, you could see that if you're a dog walker, you might click through there to get examples of where this lady is recommending you go as a visitor. This is a rather nice campaign from Nurture Lakeland, the Love Your Lakes initiative. And the purpose of this campaign was to stop phosphates from dishwashing products and detergents going into the lakes in the Lake District. It had caused all sorts of environmental problems with these phosphates entering the lake. So there have been algal blooms, which actually put the lakes off limits. It was dangerous to enter into the lakes. So they ran a big campaign in order to try and reduce the number of phosphates going into the lakes. The interesting thing about the campaign is that they didn't just sort of think, well, one message fits all. They identified that there were three main audiences that they need to communicate their message to. So they needed to communicate to visitors, and they told visitors about what sorts of detergents to bring if they were coming on a self-catering holiday. They spoke to residents about what sort of detergents that they could use, and they also spoke to local businesses to advise them on what they could do, and helped as well to allay fears about the fact that a phosphate-free laundry wouldn't bring the whites up, the linen up so well. But just really working with businesses there to get their engagement to help protect these beautiful lakes in the Lake District National Park. And the final example comes from Kent in the south of England. Now, Kent was lucky in that they were able to train all of these volunteers up as part of the 2012 Olympic Games. But rather than just letting them all go after the event, they've retained this great pool of expertise, of local expertise, local residents as volunteers, and they deploy them in three ways. So they can deploy the volunteers at events and venues and attractions at specific times and places. They can deploy them rather at busy times. So they could go on board ferries, or they could be placed at mainline stations to provide information. And there are also local specialists, the last group of volunteers, who have a specific knowledge. So it could be history, for example, and visitors can book these locally knowledgeable greeters who will take them around their place as they understand it and talk to them about their particular knowledge and understanding in terms of history or whatever it is, wildlife, whatever their particular expertise is. So, common mistake number 4, our iconic attractions speak for themselves. Well, that's true to some extent, and all have iconic attractions, but you also need to maybe back this up with something a little more robust rather than just allowing these wonderful places to speak for themselves. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about some theory. So don't switch off, it's going to be very brief. So as we know, all marketing is about influencing behaviour. And a lot has been written about the ways in which communication can effectively change behaviour. In particular, there's an academic called Dr. Robert Cialdini, who is one of the world's most quoted social psychologists, and his work identifies reasons that drive people to comply with requests to alter behaviour. And his work identifies 6 core principles of persuasive communication, which I'll just tell you about now. So the first principle is that of reciprocation, where people tend to return a favour, and hence the commonplace marketing technique of offering free samples. And the example here is the Staffordshire Enjoy card. Destination Staffordshire are encouraging customer loyalty with their free Enjoy card, and members can get discounts, deals and benefits such as 2 for 1 or kids go free or money off at participating tourism businesses. And these include theme parks, gardens, stately homes, museums and so on. So they are offering this reciprocity then, that they've given their visitors a little something and they might expect a little something back in return. The next principle is commitment and consistency. So if people commit to an idea or goal, they are more likely to honour that commitment. The third principle is social proof, that people will do things that they see other people are doing. The I will if you will approach, or that what others say about you is much more convincing than what you say about your own destination. And I'm going to come back to this a little bit later on in the presentation and talk to you about social proof in one of the following slides. So persuasive communication, the fourth principle is celebrity. So people are easily persuaded by people that they like, and hence the commonly used advertising practice of celebrity endorsement. And the example we've got here is from Visit Cornwall, and they are using their locally based celebrity chef Rick Stein. For listeners outside the UK, Rick Stein is a very well-known chef. He has his own television show, he's written cookbooks, and he runs a fish and chip restaurant in Cornwall. And in this little YouTube video, Rick Stein talks about winter fuel. So he's selling the off-season in Cornwall, and we have this lovely imagery of what Cornwall looks like in the winter, and these lovely photographs of visitors all sort of wrapped up warm, going for a bracing walk on the beach. And then Rick telling you how wonderful it is to actually go to some of these restaurants that are open during the winter, and what a great experience it is to eat fish during the winter months. And he recommends that it's actually the best time of year to eat fish. So a strong endorsement there from a celebrity for Visit Cornwall. So the fifth principle of persuasive communication is authority. So people tend to trust authority figures. So if you think about washing powder advertising, think about how that's sold, and often you'll see it sold by someone wearing a white coat, presenting themselves as a scientist, i.e. that they have this authority on which to speak. And Visit Manchester are using authority, and in this case they're using the authority of a well-respected restaurant critic to make his recommendations for the top 5 restaurants in the city. Authority can also include certification schemes, and I'll come on to that just a minute. But before we do, the sixth and final principle is scarcity, whereby perceived scarcity will generate demand. The most obvious example of this is saying that offers are available for a limited time only to encourage sales. So let's just return to this theme of authority, and certification and validation is a very effective way to ensure that visitors know which businesses are acting sustainably. However, with so many schemes on offer, I'm sure you've seen plenty of these, it's difficult to tell which are credible and which are not. So you can actually help your consumer through these choices by promoting validated schemes. And validation is the process of ensuring that certification operates to a high standard. It helps to provide clarity to businesses on what schemes are the best, confidence to consumers that they are booking genuinely sustainable products, and allows to avoid claims of greenwashing. And there's a quote here from my colleague Xavier Font that some of you might know, and Xavier saying that the process of validation has improved the practices and transparency of certification programs that passed and those that didn't, by improving their organisational systems, reviewing criteria, improving verification practices and membership benefits. So it's important that there is substance behind these certification schemes, or otherwise the visitor will very quickly switch off and judge them as greenwashing. So let's have a look at common mistake number 5. We have thousands of brochures printed for trade shows, but in addition to the conventional marketing channels, which tend to be one way, take advantage of online channels such as social media. Let's have a look here at an example from Lancashire, which is where I live, incidentally, and this is the Lancashire Wildlife blog. Now, as part of their green accreditation process, accommodation providers were encouraged to blog to let visitors know about the unique wildlife that was apparent on their doorsteps. And visitors were able to participate in that conversation by reporting noteworthy nature spots themselves. And then all of this was fed through into an aggregate site where visitors could search for nature-related updates in Lancashire via businesses' blogs, Twitter feeds, YouTube or Flickr. So you can see then that this might be a really nice way of engaging potential customers by saying, well, look, you know, we've had this great nature spot, you know, we've seen a hen harrier, or that a certain type of seasonal flower is flowering, and that you can see it in a particular place. The next example is also from the Lake District, and this is part of a Go Lakes travel initiative which was designed to increase sustainable visitor transport, with the DMO supporting a number of different blogs and social media. And just at the back of this, the final page at the back there, you can see that here's a blog which talks about the experience of the X33 bus service to get around the Lake District. And I think it's important to tell those stories just to show people that the experience can be positive, and that they shouldn't be fearful of doing that they're not going to get stranded in the middle of nowhere, and it can actually be quite pleasant. So on to the next mistake. It's best to focus on what has worked in the past. Website and print works well for us. Well, that might be true, but in addition, you need to take advantage of multiple channels to share your stories. Now, here is an interesting example. I'll just tell you the story behind this, which is quite interesting. This is a campaign from Suffolk, which is a coastal county in the south of England, close to London, actually. So what they were trying to do with this campaign was to tap into the staycation market, or the domestic market from London, to entice people away for long weekends. And they did that through this campaign, which was intended to emphasise cultural experiences, interesting places, exploration and fun. The interesting thing about this is that it was funded by 39 corporate sponsors. So actually private businesses came together to fund and to organise this promotional campaign. And multiple channels of communication were used. So they sent out 50,000 postcard packs designed to entice families, and these were placed in the Guardian newspaper, so definitely attracting a certain sort of target market. Posters were put up at London's Liverpool station, which was the main access station to access the Suffolk. And the campaign also included a strong social networking element. So the Facebook campaign averaged a weekly reach of 500,000. The Twitter campaign had 920 followers. The hashtag Curious County had a reach of 130,000, and the hashtag Proud to be Curious had a reach of 378,000. Now, the really interesting thing about this campaign is that it was quite controversial, and a lot of people didn't like it. It was somewhat ridiculed. People were saying that that the phrase curious meant that there was something not quite right about the destination. Although Visit Suffolk defended the campaign and stated that it was actually worth 750,000 to the country's economy. But in the spirit of not focusing on what had worked in the past and moving on, they actually changed the campaign because of the controversy, and because of just keeping it fresh. And they now promote Take Me to Suffolk with the hashtag The Other Side, again emphasising some of the same things of discovery, fun, quirky, and tapping in again to that lucrative market, weekend market from London. So let's move on to the final common mistake, and this is that we only need to target those who are considering to book. Well, again, not so. Marketing happens throughout all the customer journey, and storytelling can be an effective way to engage travellers at a much earlier stage of the journey, as well as after they've visited your destination. Now, I know some of you will be familiar with the customer journey, but for those who aren't, this is what it looks like. So it's not rocket science. Starts off at number 1 on the right hand side, where the customer is dreaming and looking for inspiration about their holiday. Moving through to 2, where they're planning their holiday. Number 3, where they book it. Number 4, where they actually experience the visit. Number 5, where they remember. And the important thing to note at number 5 is this: if it's bad, if they've had a bad experience, they won't return or they won't recommend. And if it's good, they may return and they may recommend and start the journey over again. So let's have a look at each of these stages and what that means in terms of communicating wise growth. So just to recap then, the dream stage, this is where the visitor has an idea of when and how long they might travel, but they're looking for inspiration, they're looking for ideas. I think this is a great example. This is Welcome to Yorkshire's Rhubarb, Crumble and Custard Garden, which featured in the 2010 Chelsea Flower Show and won the People's Choice. And it used traditional and natural materials to celebrate Yorkshire's product craftsmanship, its famous landscape and its traditional culinary offer, so rhubarb and custard, and created a garden built around this dish of rhubarb and custard. And I think it's just a really powerful way of creating a little bit of inspiration, of putting this destination into people's minds by selling local distinctiveness, and just so much more powerful than brochure or putting up a poster. Excuse me. So here we are on to the next stage of the customer journey, which is the planning stage. So the customer will have a clear idea of when they're going to go and where they're going to go. And now they're looking for specific information about transport, accommodation, and so on. Now, let's consider what this means for visitors with a disability. And I'll draw your attention to the quote on the right-hand side, which has got some quite startling figures here. So 2 in 3 people looking for access information say they are much less likely to visit a destination if they can't find the information they need. But 3 in 4 say they would be a lot more likely to choose the destination offering the best information. The image that you're looking at here is from the Greater Yarmouth Tourist Authority, which has a dedicated accessibility page which can be searched under categories of hotels, B&Bs, self-catering and attractions. And each can be searched for various criteria such as access, parking, public areas, bedroom details and so on. And they also provide details of this wonderful facility that they offer, which is accessible wheelchairs, which can be booked in advance from the Tourist Information Centre. So this takes us through to our next stage of the customer journey, which is the booking stage. So while we all know that customers make comparisons and choices based primarily on price and convenience, other factors such as green credentials will be considered. And this example from Bath City, the web page you're looking at here, enables visitors to search for and book accommodation which has been accredited by the Green Tourism Business Scheme. It links to the Green Tourism Business Scheme, and those who have this accreditation are displayed, and it allows visitors to choose green businesses as their primary search criteria. So the next stage of the customer journey is experience, and this is the point at which the visitor is experienced. They're going to travel to the destination, they're going to travel around the destination, they're going to try all sorts of things. It can include buying local, for example. Now, the example I've got here is car-free activities and ideas from the Pool Tourism website. So Pool promote days out without the car. They have a dedicated web page for car-free ideas and activities and provide detailed information on walking, cycling, catching the bus and taking the train. The pages provide guidance on how to use alternative forms of transport and suggest circular routes and itineraries. And this is the final stage of the customer journey, which is the remembering stage. So your visitor has had their wonderful experience, they've gone home, they might be reflecting on that experience. This is the point at which they will recommend to others, or they might think about returning. And just to finish off this section, there's a really nice example here from the UK National Parks Authority. And what they're doing here is running a photo competition. And this achieves a lot of things, I think. So it encourages visitors to reflect on their experience, to go back through their own photographs and pick out their favourites and think, wow, what a great time I had. It allows those visitors then to see what other people have posted and to get inspiration perhaps for their next journey, for their next visit from other people's photographs. And it also takes us again full circle back to the start of the customer journey by providing an opportunity for inspiration for others. Less formally, there is also an encouragement from the national parks for people to submit photographs on the Facebook page and via its Twitter feed. And if I might, I'd just like to refer you back to earlier in my presentation where we talked about social proof, about letting others tell the story for you, which will be much more powerful than the destination itself selling the experience. If you let visitors themselves talk about their stories and their experiences, or in this case, showing potential visitors about their own experience. So that concludes the presentation from me, and I believe we just have some time for questions. So I'll hand it back to Ayako for a little bit. I'd just like to, before I do that, just say thank you to all the participating all the contributors. If you have your own examples of best practice, please do get in touch with me. I'd love to hear about them. And we'll just take some questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Davina, for your presentation and for detailed examples from Visit England and different destinations in England. I think that it's always exciting and helpful to learn from what has worked for others, as well as I think, I can imagine that many of our listeners, regardless of where they are and what kind of roles that they play within the tourism industry, I think have gotten a lot of ideas and inspirations from these examples, which we would, what I wanted to do, as I mentioned earlier, we will have some time, luckily, for additional questions and discussion topics. Before we go into that, I wanted to share just a little bit of my own ideas and inspirations that I've gotten from this presentation, which is simply that, as Davina mentioned earlier in the first part of the presentation, we're joined today by many people from not just from the UK and Europe, but also from many other parts of the world, from North and South America, Asia, and Africa. And thank you so much for those of us who are watching live on time zones that are maybe a little bit really early or really late as well. But many of the examples that we've learned about today from the Visit England Toolkit, of course, are specific to England. But I think that the important thing and important takeaway for me and for many of the other destinations as well is that the lessons that you can take away from these examples are relevant to destinations internationally, whether whichever regions of the world that they may be. And I think that, for example, some of the trends that were discussed about many more people interested, many more travelers nowadays being interested in green, for example, or local and regional products and experiences. I think that these are some key lessons and insights that can translate to different types of destinations and their own situations. And I think the important thing is you take these lessons and apply to your own situations in your destinations to find unique stories that are interesting and different, and maybe something that showcases what's different about your destination and what makes it interesting for many visitors. And I also thought the example of the staycation trend in England offers an interesting example and also maybe an exciting opportunities for many destinations around the world, especially the ones that are close to larger cities in different countries, and that maybe more people nowadays, more travelers nowadays, are interested in exploring new or finding new opportunities and different kinds of experiences closer to home, which I think in our industry, of course, we want to see many more people exploring the world and seeing many different kinds of destinations, but that maybe we can not just explore these international markets, but also find new opportunities by showcasing your own destinations to closer markets in different ways. And that's the Curious and the Take Me to Suffolk campaign, I think, were really interesting examples. So on that, this is very exciting for me, but I will stop here. And I do hope that many of you who are watching from different parts of the world will be able to find your own inspirations and ideas from these examples to apply to your destinations. Speaking of international destinations and different markets, I would like to start with one of the questions that we received through email or social media before the session, actually, about related to this topic. And if we can start with the Q&A session with this, Davina.
Yeah, sure.
So the question is, do different or international markets respond differently to sustainability-related communications? Do we need different approaches to share sustainability information to different types of audiences based on where they come from or their languages and so on?
I think this is a really good question, and you know, I could spend a long time answering this, but time is limited, so I'll try to do what I can in the time available. I think yes, different international markets will respond differently. Yes, we need to have different approaches. But what I would say is that I think the key thing is to not be driven too much by a demographic approach to sustainability or to marketing. And by that I mean, I'm from the UK. I mean, my parents are from the UK. People down the street are all from the UK, but we will all behave very differently according to our values. And I think it's actually more useful to look at people's values. Now, I'd just like to illustrate that with some research that I've done in New Zealand. And I was looking at sustainability actions in New Zealand with a variety of different tourists. And one of the things I was looking at was recycling. And what I found was that you could say Germans were actually more likely to recycle their rubbish, or were keener to recycle their rubbish. But what it came down to actually was their values, rather than the fact that they were German or a certain gender or a certain age. And I think this links really nicely to the whole approach, actually, that New Zealand have taken with their 100% Pure campaign. Which some of you might know about, but I'll just go through that again and tell you why I'm highlighting it. They had a limited budget, and that they knew that they couldn't market to everyone. Within their tourism strategy, they had sort of two main values which had been outlined, and these values were Kaitiakitanga and Manaakitanga, which are Maori ethics. And the first, Kaitiakitanga, is a Maori ethic that relates to environmental stewardship. And the second is based on mutual respect between hosts and guests. Excuse me. And very cleverly, what they wanted to do was to target particular visitors, regardless of the country of their destination, of their country of origin, based on values that would align neatly with those core values. And so they they identified what they call the ideal tourist, the interactive traveller. And it didn't matter whether you were from the UK or whether you were from Japan. They developed the characteristics of this ideal traveller and promoted to them. So, it was things like that they wanted a wide range of products and services, that they liked to interact with nature, that they had respect for the environment and culture, that they were health conscious, they were sociable, that they liked to learn, and also that they had a high level of disposable income. And as I'm sure you're aware, the 100% Pure campaign has been, a long-running campaign and very successful. The figures are very impressive. So, do we need different approaches? I think we need an approach that matches people's values, actually. And I wouldn't say that one nationality was better than another. I think destinations have to decide what it is their values are and market to those values, market visitors that will align with those values. So I hope that helps answer that question.
Great, thanks for that. And I think that, yeah, it's definitely an important additional point, I think, to look at when we think about market segments for different destinations. And this next question, I think that we do have some more time for additional questions. And this next question might be similar to this point, but we often hear nowadays that more and more people are interested in sustainability and green and eco. Is this true for most travelers when we think about traveling public, or just certain types of travelers?
Well, yes. I mean, I think, unfortunately, I think it's true for some, but not for all. So, we're not going to see everybody interested in sustainability. But what we are going to see is people interested in the benefits for themselves. So, you might have visitors who are interested in sustainability, not for sustainability's sake, but that it offers a better experience for themselves. What I would suggest that people do, though, it's if you have a sort of a robust market segmentation, you can actually use that to try and identify which of those markets will have the greatest propensity for a behaviour change, which aligns with sustainability. And something that you can do as well is to work out which of those markets will have the greatest propensity for a behaviour change, but also while retaining economic spend, which is an approach that we took in the Lake District, to look at different types of travellers, to look at the different market segments with the existing market segmentation that they had in the Lake District, and try and work out which of those markets would be the best in environmental terms and also have the best in economic terms. So, and I know this will link to another question that we've had, but we might not have time for, which is about, how much is too much? How many visitors should we have? Well, the thing which we were encouraging here is yield, so that you have visitors which align closely with the value of your destination, which act sustainably, who stay longer, who come back, and who spend money in the destination.
Great, thank you. And I think that one of the important lessons that we've learned from some of the examples that you shared today as well was about stories and storytelling, and how effective they are in sort of helping people care more about destinations, whether they're locals or visitors. And I think that the power of stories, again, in, like you said, helping people maybe realize how they can change their behavior, or maybe making them want to, because they care about certain things, about their experiences, about the destinations, maybe their own destinations and communities. I think goes back to the earlier points about, maybe using colorful and engaging ways of telling your stories through some of the effective storytelling techniques. I think this is a great and important lessons for any.
I mean, if I might add to that, I don't think it is. You're absolutely right. It is about the stories, and it's not about the data. It's not about overwhelming people with messages that say we've reduced X number of food miles. It's about telling the story behind that individual food producer and the passion that they have for the local produce that they're producing. And people are much more interested than hearing about the food miles that have been saved. Definitely. Although, it is, like I say, when I talked about certification, it's important to back that up as well, so that you're not falling foul of accusations of greenwashing.
Yep. And so that was, I think, another question, and I think that many
Mm.
people are interested in
Mm-hmm.
sort of the, striking the right balance of presenting credible data about their
Mm-hmm.
achievements and their
Yeah.
practices, and using things like stories,
Yes.
and videos and photos and whatnot that people can relate to. And do you think, like you said, that the stories are more effective, and in that way that maybe the emphasis should be more on stories when it comes to sustainability communications and destination marketing?
Yes, definitely. Although there will be a range of these tools that you can use. So the storytelling is important, but it's important to know what stories you're telling. So if I can refer you back to the work of Cialdini and the principles of persuasive communication, he tested a number of different messages to see which. The A cards that you get in a hotel room, which asks you to reuse your towels. Well,
Mm-hmm.
he tested different messages, some which sort of said, oh, you must do this because it's good for the environment. And he actually found that the most powerful message was one that relied on social proof of the experience of other people in that particular room. So when when visitors were told how many people in that particular room had reused their towels, with quite a high figure, they themselves were then more likely to do that. And it wasn't the case for the hotel in general, it was for that particular room. So I think the context is important too, and sort of being very specific rather than just talking in generalizations. I think people want to know exactly what it is their action relates to. So that's also an important point to note there.
Yeah, that sounds great, and I think that when we talk about stories, of which of course are an important tool for sustainability communications in tourism,
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you said, it's sort of the putting it in the right context, and letting people sort of really understand the context of
Mm.
what's important that you're communicating about. And I
Yeah.
think that it sort of throughout, the different examples from across the UK and as well as New Zealand and other countries that you've shared. I think it is sort of seeing things, or trying to do more as destinations to see things from the travelers and visitors and locals and the other people's
Mm.
perspective. Whether you're trying to come up with effective approaches to storytelling,
Mm.
or encouraging sustainability behavior, I think
Mm.
that's sort of key, that we've seen throughout these different types of examples,
Mm.
including having social proof, so that the
Mm.
travelers are hearing about these stories from the perspectives of
Yes. Yeah.
somebody they care about, somebody they respect, or maybe somebody they really like that they see on
Yeah.
TV. So yeah, again, thank you so much for all these great insights, as well as really detailed examples based on your research. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and we do have many other questions and topics that we would love to discuss, but we will continue sharing content that's related to this topic, and these areas of sustainability communications and destination marketing online through our website, and of course through Respond Eco's website, as well as social media channels that we are active on. So I hope that many of you who are watching will be able to follow us, and as well as share your own examples and ideas, that may be some inspirations that you've gotten from this session today. Um, and I would like to now thank you again to our partner, Respond Eco, who helped organize this, as well as Davina, for the excellent presentations, and again, a lot of insights and inspirations from Keep It Real for destinations. And a last bit of a reminder for future tourism training live sessions, which will be also available online for free. If you're interested, you can sign up for email updates to receive reminders and updates on these programs, and the link for sign up is available on the page that you're on right now, on Tourism Training Live on trainingaid.org. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much again to Davina and Respondico, our partner, as well as everyone who's joined us live today for our first Tourism Training Live session. Thank you and goodbye.
Okay, thank you.